Okay, welcome back. We have a familiar face here, Jill Bourque from RushTix, which went through our first incubator class. We now call it an accelerator. Of those 7 companies, one of them got acquired. That's worked out really well for us. That was Sunny's company, Requested. And Red Tricycle still going strong. And RushTix still in the game.
Still in the game and growing.
Good.
So we're in a new phase.
Great. Tell us.
So
tell people what RushTix is.
Okay, yes. So RushTix is a subscription-based live entertainment platform.
Netflix for live events.
Exactly. And we were out fundraising a year ago.
Yep.
And we got a real meh response from VCs.
Got it.
They said, you don't have enough traction, and we don't think this market is big enough.
And at that time, you're doing, what, 10K a month?
Yeah, we're doing like 8, 9.
Got it. So that makes sense. They're looking for a little more traction. Add a 0, and their probably eyes would open up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So up until now, we've raised about $400,000 from the incubator/accelerator. And then over the last year, we focused on growth. We've 3x'd it.
Great.
Almost 4x'd it. So we're in a good place. And I read your wonderful book.
Oh, thanks.
It's a really good book.
Thank you.
And so now I'm thinking for this seed round, instead of going to the VCs, why don't we do just angels?
Yeah.
And so, and here's my thing. Did you happen to see an article today in Fortune by Emma
No.
Hinchliffe? Okay, well, it just says something that it's been said many times, but that women-led, female-led startups get like 2% of VC money.
Okay.
And I'm not a whiner. That's fine. I'm resilient. But if I'm looking at angels, is it a good idea? And should I look at angels that will help me get to the next level if I am aiming for a unicorn business, which I have?
Okay. So if you're aiming for a unicorn business and you're trying to get past what you believe are systematic challenges for people in this system, there is one hack around it. So instead of debating, are women treated differently or not? Obviously they are. And to what extent? All that matters is that you have a chart that goes up and to the right. When there is a chart that goes up and to the right, people quickly forget about gender and race, even if it's subconscious, in my experience. And this is me mansplaining and whitesplaining and cis white male splaining. But I have seen minority women with up and to the right, Black women, Asian women, have an up and to the right chart and close funding. You now have the up and to the right chart. If you can show that you're in control of that chart and you know how to move it intelligently, now not perfectly, but intelligently. If we spend X, we get back Y. Our CAC typically lands here, and we know how to do retargeting, and we know who our customer is. And our customers are viral in this way. When you start to show that ability, then people will look at the organization, I think, differently. You also have been around for a while. That would be a bigger issue than being a female founder or a founder of color, in my experience. The being around for a while becomes a real scarlet letter, if I'm using that analogy correctly, in that people will say, oh, it's been around for 4 years and it's not a unicorn, it hasn't grown. Okay, there must be some fundamental flaw. That's actually a really bad way to think as an investor. So people who are investors there, it might be the founder was just kind of getting their legs under them, figuring out what they want to do. And then maybe at some point they start to feel emboldened because they figured it out. So sometimes people get lost in the desert and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, wait a second. I found an oasis. Oh my God, I found oil and now I'm rich, right? Like, so I kind of look at your experience very much like that, which is, hey, you went out to the desert and you starved and it was brutal and you didn't accomplish as much as you wanted to. And then all of a sudden you found this oasis, you dug, you found oil, or you found diamonds or antiques, whatever it is, and then you can go to it with that. So I think that's the key, is to go to them and say, we built what would be best described as a lifestyle business. And then here's the moment that it changed. What was the cause of that tripling, quadrupling of the revenue? Was there some moment or some exact thing that you can point to and say, we discovered this?
Well, I would say that up until this last year, our focus wasn't on growth. We had a limited budget, and if we were to grow in that way, it would just bankrupt us right off the bat. So when you have $400,000 total in investment, for us to throw it at customer acquisition, was not a good idea. Our burn rate was just, woo. So we got our product market fit as far as our customers being super happy. We felt like we had a product that people stayed with.
Right.
Like we had to solve retention before growth.
Yeah, you don't want to dump a bunch of water into a leaky bucket. So
Yeah.
you feel like you solved the leaky bucket issue.
Yes.
We got product market fit. What does the product cost now? And do people pay by year or month?
They pay monthly.
Got
$39 a month is the average.
Can they buy a year for $250?
They can.
Do they? And do you market that?
We don't market that just right now.
What is it per year?
It's like basically 20% off, but you're right in the ballpark.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So I think that's something to think about. It's $299. It's $25 a month when billed annually, and presenting that first, because that gives you cash flow.
Right.
And I would test that immediately, because that could also be a changer where if you start getting a third and then 40% and then 50% and then eventually the majority to pay in a year, consumers, when they see that COM is $60, it's like, it's $8 a month or $60 when billed annually. I think a large percentage, I don't know the percentage off the top of my head, but I think a large percentage do that. And I saw that also with Fitbod, another accelerator company, and Musician, a bunch of these are saying when billed annually. I would do that. Now you got cash flow coming in. So I think that's a good story to tell investors, and be cognizant of the fact that when you go out to raise this money, it's going to be a 3 to 6 month process, and they're going to be looking at your growth each week during it. So when you fire off this, you're going to have to serve two masters. One, you're going to have to spend half your time fundraising, and the other half, you're going to have to plot out weekly growth and just say, over the next, call it 20 weeks, we're going to spend this amount and grow this amount every week. And you're going to have to go to your partners and team members and say, I need you to hit these exact numbers of growth. You could be off a little bit, but if this week we have $1,000, or actually in your case, like we're at 5,000 a week or something. Next week, I want to have exactly 5% growth. So I want it to be $5,250 in, MRR or whatever it is, and just start that trail. Now they could easily hit it by creating this when billed annually number. But if it's going up and to the right, every email, because I got your email recently on the update and you didn't have any of the revenue or charts. And I was like, where's the chart? Because if it is going up and like buried like halfway down your thing, there was some indication that things were working out. But people are busy. You're up against a lot of startups. Lead with the weekly chart, and have the weekly, the monthly, and the quarterly chart. Now all of a sudden people are going to look at it and go, oh, Jill from RushTix, I remember her. Yeah. She figured it out.
I haven't pursued angels yet, though. So I'm interested to know which are the ones that obviously you're...
Any investor who sees a chart going up and to the right is going to take the meeting. That's the thing that founders have to understand. It's very easy to get caught up in, the unfairness of the world, or how difficult it is, or people want to grow too fast and unhealthy. There's a lot of like anti-capitalism going around right now at this very moment in 2019. Elizabeth Warren wants to tax everybody like whatever, 2 or 3% on their ultra wealth. Cortez, I forgot her name. She wants to Alexandra wants to do, she thinks it's immoral to be a billionaire. I don't, for the record, think it's immoral to be a billionaire. I think it's super moral. I'm really working hard to get there. But anyway, you're in this like anti-capitalist society in the public sphere. But in private and in what we do, everybody's still pretty much focused on the same thing, getting rich and being powerful. And if you can focus just on two things, building the world-class product that people don't want to unsubscribe from, and then growth, you can invest the growth dollars into your team and the product, which then makes it spread, which then gets you more money, and that money gets reinvested in the product, and all of a sudden you get the flywheel going. You're on the cusp of getting that flywheel growing. You have to block out all other noise and get that flywheel going. Once that flywheel's going, it's very hard to stop these businesses. They just grow. And so congratulations on that.
Can I count you in on the next round?
Okay, so for us to do continued bridge financing or whatever,
this is a new round.
If it's a new round, I would want to see you have half of the round lined up before I get involved. So what happens with me a lot is people know I get really enthusiastic and I believe in founders, how I am, and I'm just like, yeah, let's go. What I've had to do is have a little discipline. After maybe 1 or 2 investments in a company, which we did, we want to see you have the ability to clear market with other investors and then come back to us and say, this investor who's a known quantity is putting in $250. We have $250 left. How much do you want? That's how you got to go back to your existing investors, and then you have power. I did that with Inside.com. I recently was able to raise around over $2 million. I said, I'm putting in $250,000, and here's where I think the business is going. And I had other investors, and I went back to our existing investors, and a couple of them who had invested 10 years ago were like, yeah, I'll take my pro rata. But I didn't want to go back to the existing investors like, hey, keep bridging me, keep bridging me. What you should tell existing investors is Jason said he's interested in coming in if we can get half the round filled. So he's soft circled. Okay. That's like, and so I don't want you going out there using me as Jason's the anchor of the round.
I got you.
Use me as like the soft circle.
We
like,
haven't done the syndicate yet. You know that, right?
Yeah. Oh, you haven't?
No.
Yeah, so the syndicate now, the stakes are a little bit higher since when you went through. Back in the day, we would do companies, that had a pre-product market fit, but now you're up against companies that have a little bit more traction and have controlled that growth. So typically they have 6 months of continuous growth that they've controlled. You might have 3 or 4 months right now.
We have 4.
So you probably have about 2 more months of proving it because I've trained our syndicate at thesyndicate.com to be very focused on investing in companies that don't have leaky buckets and that have control of their growth. And they're going to ask really hard questions, and they're very savvy. So it's possible, but we usually have about 10 companies lined up to do the syndicate. And what we do is we monitor all of them, and we have them deploy based on how much of the round is closed and what their growth is and how much money they're making. Those 2 factors. So when people come to us and say, hey, the round's closed, we've got 750 of $1 million, there's only 250 left, we have to move quickly. And then sometimes the growth is so spectacular that we say, we'll do the entire round. So we've done that twice where I said to somebody, you want $800,000? We'll put in 100 from our fund and we'll try and syndicate all 700. Then you go out and do other funding, but that's only if they have spectacular growth, which is usually doubling every 3 months or tripling. So when people have that, which is about 5% of our startups will show that, we will preemptively finance them. So those are the 2 hacks.
All right.
All right. Well done, Jill. Great to see you.